Hey everyone, how's it going today, and welcome back to another update. So the big update is that in today's update is I really want to take a trip down memory lane once again and actually probably talk about probably one of the most golden common questions that I know is probably very important to address, which is basically just what this whole thing is built off of, which is about whether or not we can actually really see the unemployment benefits program ever come back again because of everything that's going on in our world. So in today's update, the first half is I really just want to talk about what's actually going on in our world right now when it comes to unemployment, so just all of the factual stuff. But I do maybe also want to maybe share in the second half of this video a little bit about the significance about what these numbers actually mean. So there is going to be a little bit of a speculation piece to this, so hopefully even if you have seen another video, there is going to be something relatively unique because part of it does not come from an article but from actual speculation based off of what's happening. So of course we're gonna get right to it, but as always, real fast before we begin, remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this, so you can watch to the end to consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification, and as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about honestly anything. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So now, to answer maybe one of the very common questions about whether or not unemployment can come back again, the very fast answer is that it actually can, and there is a very interesting way how it might potentially play out, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Of course, I think it's really important to notice is that at this current time, nobody really knows for sure, because at the end of the day, we are talking about the future, and that has not happened yet. However, when it comes to talking about the past, what it has officially already happened has basically just been all about the new unemployment report that just came out right here. So it's really important to really understand this, because objectively speaking, what really ended up happening now that we are starting the new month of June 2022, and this is probably going to be relevant even into the future, the big idea is that they ended up finding out in the last month report that job openings actually fell by about 455,000 people in April. So right now, they added pretty much about 328,000 jobs in May of 2022 after they revised the numbers. So what this really means essentially is the long story short is that it means that we are starting to see a decline in job openings again. So basically it just means that there are less jobs that are physically being created. However, it is still very important to really notice is that even though there are a lot less jobs being created, at the end of the day, there are actually also a lot more people that are now looking for jobs in general. So that is one thing really important to notice is, say for example, we do know in this situation, let's say for example they are creating about 300 something thousand jobs, but there are 600,000 employees or 600,000 unemployed people looking for work to potentially become employees. Then the problem is that one of the issues that's going on inside of Congress and the White House and everyone there is that their goal is to really try to get people to actually fill up these jobs. That's really the biggest reason, and this is actually one of the things that might make the unemployment benefit situation a little bit difficult to be able to go through. However, with that being said, I do think it's very important, and this is something the article does not necessarily talk about, it's just something to just generally note, is that even though it is true that there are significantly more people looking for jobs than that there are or physically jobs that are out there available, the big thing to really notice is that it doesn't necessarily mean that all of the people that are looking for jobs and that the jobs that are physically available are an actual match. So this is really important because you can have a situation where, let's say for example, there are 500,000 jobs, but then what happens is that within those 500,000 jobs, 100,000 of those jobs relate to healthcare or becoming a doctor of some kind. And then you also have maybe about 1 million people that are unemployed, so there's not, again, physically enough jobs to go. This is just an example. There might not be physically enough jobs to go around, but then the problem is that even though you might think, there's a million people that are looking for work, it does not necessarily mean that there are within that 1 million people, 100,000 people looking for healthcare jobs. So it's very possible maybe you have 1 million people that are unemployed, but within that, only about 20,000 people are looking for healthcare jobs. And it's not just because they're picky about their jobs, even though we have talked about how it's important to try. The keyword is to try, not just to find work, but to find something that's hopefully of a quality job, because there's a lot more to it than that. But it's also about actually being qualified for your job, because if you're not actually physically, if your skill set is in one area, but then the problem is that all of the jobs that they have are related to healthcare, but you're not a doctor and you don't really know a lot about healthcare, you don't really have that match. So why do I say all of this is that I think it's really important to note right now is that the unemployment rate, in the eyes of Congress, it has actually already started to go down very significantly. And you guys can feel free to share any particular opinions. We do know, as we discussed in one of the previous videos, which is really about when President Biden came out to speak. I believe the name of that video is literally just President Biden Speaks on Unemployment. I'll put that video at the very, very end screen. If you guys are interested in checking out, definitely highly recommend. But what that video specifically really just shares is the fact that in Congress's eyes right now, they see the unemployment situation as improving very, very drastically. So because of that reason, this is something that might not make it very probable for them to really try to do unemployment if they're trying to get those final positions filled so that they can decrease the unemployment rate even further. Now, this is the part that probably starts to get really, really interesting about how unemployment might potentially come back. So while it is true that right now when you look all around the world, there is obviously a lot of stuff that is going on as just mentioned, when it comes to the unemployment benefits, one of the things that many of you guys may or may not know that I don't think a lot of videos, I think many videos are talking about it, but not a lot of videos are talking about the significance of it or what this actually means for us, which is really about everything that has to do with the potential Great Recession that many people are predicting. So the story is that you guys may have seen many, many videos about it right now. You might have even heard us talk about it on this specific channel. Huge thanks if you guys have checked it out. But the big idea is that many, many people, it is very universally well known right now, all around the internet, the news, television, media, everywhere, that many, many people speculate that a potential recession can now come anytime now in the near future. So why this is particularly related is that because while it is true right now we are starting to see unemployment rates drop, while it is true we are starting to see people go back to work, this recent month, specifically May of 2022, we are actually starting to see a reversal once again. So why do I say this is that because right now what's factually going on is that many people are fearing a recession. The stock market is at one of its lowest points in the last 1 year, and it is expected by many, many people that it's going to continue that decline. So why this is related is that because if everything ends up starting to continue to potentially get even worse now, especially because one of the biggest changes is that while it is true that there are many jobs that are being created, we are now actually starting to see a lot of different companies that are now starting layoffs. Or if not layoffs, simply put, downsizing the number of people they would normally hire. And this is actually going on across almost every industry now. Even one of the most recession or believed to be recession-proof industries, which is going to be in the tech industry. So as many of you guys, just as a very, very quick recap, is that during the 2020 era when everyone was going back into lockdown, feel free to share any stories. While it was indeed a very, very difficult time for a lot of people, including me, because, as you guys know, I'm in the events industry outside of this. So in my industry, nobody was employed during that era. And that's one of the reasons why this whole page, web series and episode and show came to be. But there were actually a lot of people in other industries that actually really benefited from it. For example, like tech. Many tech companies actually made even more money during that time period because of so many people that were staying on indoors and using technology. And it's wild because a lot of these industries are actually industries that were one of the richest before. So by what happened during the pandemic, they actually got even richer. Now we are starting to see a mini reversal once again, where they are now starting to either lay off or to hire less. So this is actually very, very similar. These are a lot of the things that are happening now is very, very similar to what we saw. If you have been around, and again, feel free to share any stories, what happened during the 2008 and 2009 Great Recession, where even though we saw prices skyrocket, real estate was incredibly high, things were blooming, all of a sudden, it was very, very quick. We then suddenly saw a massive reversal where everything just actually sadly plummeted. The stock market, the housing market, and even more related to us, the unemployment and the job market. That was the era when we started to see a lot of people lose their jobs once again. So why this is very particularly important is because if history was to repeat itself, especially because it is now actually very much starting to we are already starting to see it repeat itself. The stock market is in decline. Housing is still very high, but many people believe that I'm in New York, a studio apartment here. I've heard stories of people that paid $1 million to buy a 0-bedroom apartment in my specific hometown. So if this reversal continues, we may start to see unemployment start to now go back up again. And if unemployment goes back up, maybe there's a potential, at the very least, the situation is going to come back again. And maybe by any chance, it might incentivize them to do more unemployment benefits programs. And actually, in reality, back in 2008 and 9, that was also when they actually also admittedly approved of their own stimulus package back then. We're not saying that a stimulus package is going to be approved this time, even though we already did get the first, the second, and the third stimulus package. But what we are trying to say is, at the end of the day, is that there will at least be reason to recognize maybe a potential need to bring it back again. Of course, all of this stuff is just speculation, but it makes sense. And I think that that's something that maybe is up for discussion. So feel free to share any particular opinions or thoughts if you guys had any about anything at all, because it is a very interesting thing to hear from other people. But beyond that that's pretty much what I really just wanted to share in today's update. So hopefully, if you guys found that insightful, remember to smash the like button if you guys haven't done so. Huge thanks if you guys did. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell as we hopefully get more information. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about anything, and have a great, incredible start to the new month, or mid-month, or end of the month, depending on when you're watching this end. Hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.